Okay, we'll start the meeting. The first item on the agenda, there are copies of the agenda floating around for anybody who wants one. First order of business is the minutes of the last meeting. Tom sent those out by email. Does anybody want me to read those minutes?
No, I'm not. I have
If
no
not, I mean, it's all right, yeah. The motion would be in order to
move to accept.
Scott moves to accept,
Second.
and then Sal seconds. You all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Before I forget, one little announcement, I got a phone call yesterday from John Bergeron. He's got a meeting of, a town meeting of one sort or another at 5:30. That wants to use the same town Zoom. I told him we would probably be able to finish this by 5:30, no problem. So let's make that a goal, please, to finish so that we can get out of Zoom and give him a chance to use it, all right? All right, now, under the second item on the agenda is old business, review of the list of open items. You might recall last time Tom suggested we start a list of the open follow-up items, and he thought that was a great idea. So perhaps in a moment, I'd like to ask Tom to lead us through any open items he recorded, and we'll check the status of those very briefly, just not a long discussion on any one of them, but just did that or still working on it, or that kind of thing. No need to discuss them at length. So what have you got for open items, Tom?
Well, what I did was I went through and the last meetings minutes, and I just checked some things that we indicated should be done or needed to be done, and just wanted to make sure we followed through on them and got them done.
Yep.
So first of all, would have been that the stretchers, personal protective gear, and UTV trailer were added to the inventory list.
And
Is
they
that
are
done?
on the system.
I didn't see the UTV trailer. Did I miss it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
As long as it's on there. I
Yeah,
didn't
right
see it.
now, if you look right there on the left, SCBA,
Yeah.
UTV trailer, UTV
Ah,
and
got
turnout
it. All
gear.
right, got it.
So
all
that's
right.
all on there.
Next
So,
item would have been
yep.
the status of the generators. Anybody done anything with that?
Well, I'm getting an updated quotes. I have approval from the select board to sign the maintenance agreement. I gotta
So
get
you're
the new
working on it.
agreement. Yeah.
Okay, that's in process. Keep going. What's next?
Okay. Whether in item 6 there, whether the change of dates that are gonna be replacing things like engine 1 in 31 and not 36. The 1.5 ton pickup in 34, not 31.
I believe all those.
Yeah, we did those while we was down here.
We're
We
okay.
did those at the meeting.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
okay,
I
all
think
right.
those are okay. Yeah, we did those at the meeting. That's correct.
All right, then, on the highway, dump trucks were to have a useful life of 6 to 8 years. Has that been changed?
We have 8 years in the list.
Okay,
Right.
and then pickups 10 to 15.
Pickups,
The,
I think we have them at 10.
Okay, replace a mechanic's truck in 25 rather than 26.
Yeah.
International 5 to be replaced by another 6-wheel dump. Volvo leader 170 to be replaced in 2025. They changed the name of the mini excavator from Kubota to Hitachi. 1520 Ford tractor to be replaced with a used tractor in 2028.
And I did not switch the name.
You didn't?
That's one thing I didn't do.
So-
Cause that one I
It'll take
can't
a
do
minute.
here. We'll do
you
that,
can't
change
do it?
Kubota.
Oh, all right, fine. Change the motor to what? Hitachi? Is that it?
Hitachi is the brand we bought, yeah.
Yeah.
Different
Okay.
part of Japan.
Yeah.
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 Then,
Hang on, you said the Ford tractor was supposed to be replaced in when?
well, I already moved on from that.
Well, you may.
It's 20, I have it on 28.
Yeah, I've lost it here.
You just passed it a moment ago. Wasn't that long ago?
Yeah,
Looking at the wrong thing, because I think on your sheet you have it here.
Replace
there it is, yeah, there it is, yeah,
I have- On this one, I have 28.
in 28.
Yes.
Then the roadside mower, New Holland, to be replaced in 2026. And there was a note to explore leasing for that.
Yes. And we have not explored leasing at this point, but that is in there for 26.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Then the committee requested numbers for leased items, the grader, the backhoe, and 2 trucks.
The actuals?
Yeah, you hadn't put them in
the
yet.
numbers are not in the
Okay,
spreadsheet
yeah,
yet,
no,
that's still
those,
true
those,
today.
those are in the process, cause I gotta look at the lease. We don't have the ones for the 2 trucks, we have the one for the grader and the
You must
backhoe.
have projected or estimated.
Well, we have estimated,
quoted.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
put
put those
estimate,
in,
okay.
yeah. You need to put whatever is quoted, we
Okay,
expect to put it in the
okay.
spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last one was whether the committee or whether the police department personal electronic gear had been bundled and added as an asset in the list.
They have not been added as an asset, but we're working on that.
That's, I was gonna ask about that today, is I haven't seen that bundle of equipment.
Right.
I think I saw in the report, police, let me see here. I think I saw an item, but it didn't seem to be the new package that
No.
we talked about.
Right,
All right,
it's that part's not done yet.
that part's not done yet, so we'll keep that as an open item.
Okay, now,
for next time.
okay, going forward,
Going forward, let's start a list.
what did I mention here that we haven't done yet?
Okay, well, start with that one since it's evident.
Well, it's the name change for Kubota, the lease actuals and the police bundle.
Well, no, wait, I gotta write it down.
Give
So,
him a chance, get a great list.
I'm just reading my list.
okay,
Tom's gonna be our recorder, our scribe, so.
Havachi, Kubota, okay,
Kubota to Abachi, yeah.
okay, what's next?
Was the. other one you
The
mentioned?
lease actuals for the highway equipment,
When you say actuals, lease,
lease
Numbers
amounts
numbers,
to be
numbers.
included.
whether it's
in the
actual
project,
or
right,
projected.
For
it's
highway?
lease numbers.
For highway.
Okay,
equipment.
Before highway is
Yep,
four
yep,
items.
yep.
The other one you had,
And the police bundle,
police, gear.
the
bundle.
gear bundle.
All right, and then add to that list the generators. Status
Yeah, the
of
generators are
generator
still
or
outstanding.
maintenance contract.
okay,
Okay, does anybody recall any others out of what we just reviewed?
I got one,
What is it?
I haven't seen it in here. It's the culvert steamer and pressure washer. It's on a double axle trailer.
What was the first one again?
It's pressure washer culvert steamer.
I don't think that's over 10 grand. Typically, they're not.
I don't recall
The one
that.
I just replaced in Enfield 2 years ago was 14.
Oh, really? They've
Yes.
gone up that much?
But I
Alright, so we
got a
gotta add
bigger
that.
unit that could be used flushing culverts as well.
Oh, for flushing culverts as well,
Well,
okay.
it's,
Yeah, we used
it's
like it
80 gallon.
was just the heated pressure washer that had the special nozzle on it.
Yeah.
For what, for
well,
the highway
For
garage?
for cleaning them out,
That
but
shouldn't be over 10 grand.
no, it
Yeah.
typically isn't.
Culvert cleaner, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
because
yeah.
typically the steamer is not.
Works great for that.
Yeah.
Pardon?
That's it works good in the wintertime too, and just.
For frozen.
Well, when you get one
culverts, it's
frozen, but you can put,
I
we
see.
did it and you would just you had a head on it.
Yeah.
And it would work its way through, but those were only like 5 grand. But if you go to what he's talking
So-
about, where you can actually flush a
Two-
culvert, that's a
two
whole
items,
different
yeah,
animal.
that's one, the
I got
steam
the one
cleaner, what's
sheet.
the other one?
It's
all
8 gallon.
One machine.
Oh, one,
Yeah.
okay, fine. At the moment, until it's proven if that's capital or not, I'm not sure we need to get that. on
Well,
TIP.
what I would ask is if you're talking to any of the suppliers, see
Absolutely.
what one would go for to replace
Yeah,
that.
I'll find out.
okay, then the
you
Hudson
go.
6-ton trailer and the sweeper, are they on the list?
Have you added those yet?
Well,
What's that?
the one I got is right through Main Oxy,
Main office.
through their fluid division.
Okay.
No, that is not on the list.
Because they
Okay.
custom built.
The Hudson-
Keep that on.
6-ton and the sweeper,
Okay.
and then.
We were looking at prices for sweepers, weren't we? We still they're gonna get back to us.
Okay,
Yes.
But my guess is that's gonna be over 10 grand, so I might as well add it to the list.
Okay, we can add the number in later.
and
Right.
the leasing on the roadside mower,
Yeah, that's, that's just one of those, right now we have just the total price in, but we gotta find out what it would be for a lease.
yeah.
Was that what we asked last time, was what would it cost to lease it?
Yeah.
I
We
didn't-
gotta
Well-
find an outfit that leases first.
Well, typically Kubota,
Or the
what we did was
comparison.
before, Kubota has one that they put on there that's a match.
Yep,
And they leased us the whole deal. It was like 15 grand or 18 grand a year or something like that.
Okay, when I looked at the spreadsheets, those are all items you had, Tom? It's okay, I mean, you might triple cross one later, but.
Well, there were some. I went back to the August 28th or to the August 14th. I don't know if you would try to bring any of those forward or not.
If you got a couple, we probably could address them quickly
You know,
if not,
find my
we can
note.
catch up with it later, too.
Well, why don't you go ahead and
So
I'll
I
put
did
them
have
on.
a few items that I'll come under the vote as a category from looking at the spreadsheet you sent out yesterday that I'd like to ask about, again, intended to be brief. Under fire, I noticed the SCBA's, which is the breathing apparatus, right? They're listed in your spreadsheet, the one you sent yesterday, all at once, all in 2029 for a big number. I
Because
thought we had talked about just
we can do that with the
packaging it with the turnout gear and so on.
problem
What
is
happened?
that's how they've bought them. And they have a 10-year life period.
Okay.
Done.
So it's gonna be that way then.
That's what it
Cool.
is. And if we wanna, the problem is. Like I talked about it with Hugh and he goes, there's really no way for them
Just
to
stagger.
switch those right now,
Okay,
so,
right.
because we
That's-
did it with the turnout gear, we staggered
Yeah.
them, but that was one item.
breathing apparatus is not something that you wanna extend its lifespan.
No, you don't. On the other hand, what he just said was we bought all of them at once.
Mhm.
So if we were gonna buy one, what's the other thing, turnout gear next year, let's say, 1 or 2, we wouldn't wanna buy 1 or 2 CBAs because we've already got all the ones we need and they're not 10 years old yet.
Right, so
That's what I
we're,
just heard.
right, yeah,
We'd be
we're,
throwing away money if we did that,
right,
so.
because
Okay.
turnout gear, we're basically trying to do 4 a year.
Just had that was something
Yep.
we discussed and I
Yep.
didn't see it in the spreadsheet yesterday, all right, fine. The rescue vehicle. And the spreadsheet, it shows that it's already on order, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
It
Is
is.
that
Yeah,
right?
yes,
Yes.
that's, yes.
Oh, it is on order.
That's what's from-
Okay,
And that's the
I'm
one they told us
mistaken.
500 days, we ordered it like in
Right.
April.
So that
Okay.
is on order and the spreadsheet is correct then.
Yes.
All right, good, thank you. Then I saw, next thing is stretchers. What was said last time when Jordan was here was that in the future, when we ordered an ambulance, we intended to order an ambulance package complete with stretcher.
Correct.
The
That's
one
what
that's,
she said, right?
the one that's ordered now
Yep,
has a stretcher coming with
got
it.
it.
But our other stretchers have gone past and she got a price for the 2.
Okay, so your
That-
spreadsheet says 3 stretchers, number
Well,
one.
there's 3 we have in inventory.
This, oh,
That's just a total value. What
Okay.
we did is, then we broke that up as, we gotta buy 2.
so here's where I'm coming from, excuse me. What I thought we had said was we would not be listing stretchers in the CIP plan with their own dollar value, but rather include them in the dollar values for each ambulance replacement. That's what I thought we said, but. the
Well, that was
spreadsheet
kind of the
doesn't show that.
goal, and when we do buy ones, we may get them, but the problem is, some of them are old enough that we have to replace them now, they don't, like she was explaining,
Okay.
there was issues.
I don't think that's true for all 3, so I'd ask you.
It-
let's
well,
put that
one-
on the open
one-
item list. Reevaluate stretchers in
One-
new ambulances.
One is coming with the new ambulance.
Yeah.
2, she has a quote for, because she was
Got it.
saying we had to buy them, and that's what's in
And
the
do we
plan.
have to buy those too? All right.
That's where she was, and we'll verify.
I would just say verify, put it on the
Yeah.
list, we'll verify it. Okay,
Okay.
good. It didn't ring true to me as being what we talked about here.
Okay.
Let's see, and we already talked about where the dollars for the 4 pieces of leased equipment, that's on the list now. So. I did have a couple, you know what, let me suggest that, can I meet with you like next week on some of the calculations?
Yep.
Because to me, balance forward in few cases, it'll be a lot easier to show you one-on-one on a computer.
That's fine.
Say, that number's not right, this plus this does not equal that kind of thing.
Okay.
Let's not tie up everybody.
Yeah, no,
with
that's, yeah, that'll
I
just.
found a
we'll clean
number of
that up.
those cases, all right.
Okay,
All right, the next thing is, let's see, I, I did have a couple, you know what, let me suggest that, can I meet with you like next week on some of the calculations,
Yep.
because to me, balance forward in few cases, it'll be a lot easier to show you one-on-one on a computer. That's that kind of thing, calculations, numbers, calculations. The only other question is, in 2030, in the year 2030,
Which
you know,
section?
police, let me see, I believe it's police, yeah, in 2030, if you look at the sheet in the spreadsheet called, capital worksheet, there is a police cruiser listed in 2030.
Right.
Which is okay, no problem. If you go to the one called capital budget, it's not there.
Well, the issue, the capital budget is the printable version.
Yeah.
That is not 100% done yet, so
Right,
we will
enough
get
said.
there.
Enough said, that's missing from there, but we'll fix that printed version. I think I'll leave it at that for now. For follow-up items.
Well, the things that you were looking at,
Yep.
one of the things that I noticed was in the police crowd there. I don't think there was a, contribution made to the capital reserve. In 24, right?
I don't know.
Correct, we did not add the police capital reserve in 2024.
Right, so your ending
Okay.
balance, or your beginning balance, or however you want to look at it, in
Is-
25.
is Still small.
Yeah, this was taken off the other worksheet,
really?
so
I
some of it,
understand, yeah.
It's inaccurate, makes
But
the
you don't need
25 starting
58,
balance
73,
inaccurate?
Right,
all right, well, we'll verify that.
yeah, and then, the other.
So,
one-
wait, a minute, let's get that on the
Yeah.
list. Let's
Fine.
translate that item to
Okay,
the
what
follow-up
it-
list.
Tell me what it
That's
is.
what I'm gonna do. Police capital reserve balance, verify police capital reserve balance, how's that?
And basically it's the 24 appropriation. 2024 appropriation.
What we'll need to do is just verify that we have the right balance showing on in the spreadsheet.
Right.
Okay.
I'm
that's
sorry, you
good
said it
stuff.
was what?
The 24 appropriation, because we didn't have one. So now I gotta just make sure all the carry number 400 numbers work.
Right, okay. How did you know that? We didn't do that appropriation.
I remember very clearly when
You
we
do?
had that conversation.
Oh,
Okay.
budget committee conversation or?
I didn't particularly like it, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember.
I was gonna say, I didn't know that.
That was logic.
All right,
Okay.
so now we're ready to go on to, road, I take it you wanna do road reconstruction first?
Well, that way we can let Bob,
And let Bob go, we'll talk about buildings after, okay, fine.
neither one of these conversations are any fun, just saying. So we have done basically, we took the planning, there was a couple people on the planning commission that did a complete road inventory and conditions report, paved and length of roads and things like that. There was a lot of private roads included in that. So we've taken those out. And then I had Bob go out and verify the paved lengths.
Yeah.
And turned out we were about 5 miles shorter than we thought we were, which is actually a good thing from a budget perspective. And looked at, the replacement cycle. And we are currently running around, I just made another tweak and I gotta adjust it, but it's about 390,000 to keep our pavement cycle going.
So if I may, before we dive into the detail behind all that, at that level, there's that spreadsheet on the town website that the two planning board members did.
Right.
Now you have a list in here in your tool. What can we do to make sure that going forward in the future,
That's actually,
those are gonna be
that's-
kept in sync?
this,
I've been working on.
that report is what we turned into this.
Right, but how do we know that those two are gonna live separately going forward, and 10 years from now, they'll be totally different?
Well, the
How do we?
The only thing that technically should have to be updated, we have a couple of clarifications to do on the amount of road that was paved versus gravel. Some of the roads that are half and half. And the other issue is current condition. So like whenever we pave a road, we should go in there and say,
Well, we should mark up both sheets.
right,
My question is, how are we gonna make sure that happens? That both the full website, Excel
Well-
spreadsheet and this planning tool both get updated the same way?
technically.
Gotta keep them in sync,
we have a-
otherwise. it's
yes.
gonna be a nightmare in 10 years.
one sheet.
Well,
Yeah,
yes,
it
because
should. Can you do
what
that?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, what I will tell you is, one of the things that we haven't done that is part of this whole process is I had a road report card that went along with
Right,
this. So it
right,
basically
saw
takes
that.
this list of pavement roads
Yeah,
and it keeps them updated. So
Yeah.
basically, as we hit them,
right.
we update that and
right.
this all stays together, and that's the form we should be putting up on the website. The other one
I
is
understand.
as of that date, but it had a lot of private roads on it. We want to make sure we're only
Plus,
showing
the
town
report
roads.
card sheet, which I looked at, does it have all the columns of data, like the starting and ending GPS coordinates and
Not
all that
GPS,
stuff?
no, we didn't
No.
have GPS.
So if you were to put
It's
that on the
condition
website,
and
we'd
length.
lose that.
Well, we can have both there. This
Right.
is your road condition report, current
Right.
road condition report. The other one is,
So
was an inventory.
if I could summarize and allow us to move on for today, I'd like to ask Tom to add an item to the list, and I'd be glad to talk with you guys
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
To me, an open item here is synchronize the road list from the website, between the website and the CIP tool.
Okay.
We need to do that.
Yep.
Otherwise, in 10 years, the next town administrator is gonna walk in a worse mess in his hands than you found.
I don't think so.
I mean,
I will say, they're gonna have to, yeah, well,
I don't mean
they're
the
gonna have to go a
roads
ways.
All right, all right.
physically.
You said
So,
synchronize
synchronize
the
road
road
list.
list,
Between
website,
website and the
Yeah,
CIP tool.
it's the website, road inventory and condition report.
There's a whole, and there's a lot of good, and I know, by the
Cause
way,
that actually includes all the gravel roads too, like it's got everything.
I know what those two planning board members went through to
Yep.
establish that. They spent hundreds of hours.
Right.
If we turn our attention now to the CIP tool, we maintain this as we fix roads, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
Again, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, all that work they did is in the garbage.
Right.
And I don't want to see that happen. So I think we should, over time, figure out how we're gonna keep those two lists somehow linked or synchronized. I don't know the right answer yet, but I think it would be important to do
Yeah,
that.
we'll figure
And
it out.
let's move on. Go ahead.
okay.
So
So you said, no, wait, you said 380 to 390,000, is that per year?
per year.
Okay,
And right now, the current budget amount is 400. Last year, they had 300 in the budget, 100 went into, was a ballot article. And it was approved, so the current budget for for our 24 year is 400,000 for paving. So right now, we're in the right ballpark, you know, as we still, like I will say, we're gonna be spending probably the next 6 or 8 months still refining this, like, we're still on the
Right.
getting caught up,
Right,
like,
right.
looking at the conditions and trying to get these things done.
is that just for paving or for paving
Paving.
and maintenance of gravel too?
That's, the conversation I'm having right now is just paving.
Okay,
That 400,000 is just for paving.
all right.
Actually, if we wanna look at the gravel side, it's 81,000 for gravel.
Did we have something in the budget for that?
No,
No, we didn't.
We had an aggregate line. but
we just have an
that's-
aggregate line, but that's not for like reconstructing roads. This is. You know, we have to put gravel in the roads, and typically with the amount of road we have and the amount of gravel we have, it's about $81,000 worth a year.
You mean the cost of gravel itself?
Yes,
And for us to spread it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and for us to spread it.
Well, that doesn't include the labor.
No.
There, that's
All right,
we
that's
have
what I was
that
asking.
budget. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
cost of
just to
gravel.
buy the stuff.
material cost
81 grand, yeah. I'm
is
with
about
you.
81 grand just
Yeah.
for what's being
Yep.
projected.
And did you say we have a line in the budget? I can't. remember.
There is an aggregate line in the budget. That's your maintenance
Right?
side of it. And this is what we've got to make sure we keep separated. Because if you use that maintenance side line towards project work, you don't have money to do the maintenance.
And this is part of that whole conversation we're having about this being a road reserve fund, because it would be those two things combined. Because you're reconstructing, because even when you, in some of these roads that are just paving redos, we need to rebuild some gravel in some of them, so that becomes part of this whole.
So the
Process.
road reserve includes reconstruction?
Yeah, it's basically all capital improvements to roads, including reconstruction or resurfacing or any of those items.
Did I hear that correctly? Are you proposing a new capital reserve account
Yes,
to include that?
to include roads.
That doesn't exist yet.
That does not exist today. Right
That's
now,
what I
we're
wanna
doing all of our
clarify.
paving and
We
everything
don't
else.
have a
is-
reserve account for roads today.
This would be, I would leave the $400,000 that's in the budget. We want to create the
I'm
account,
gonna create a capital reserve.
and then
account.
we're gonna sort of take that
So-
and we get.
Heather,
take that 400
that, you turn it on. Once
What?
you turn it on, you click,
Oh.
touch that again, and
Somebody in public, got it.
All right, so if I may, are you saying you or the Board of Selectmen are gonna propose a warrant article in March to create a new capital reserve account?
Yes,
For
and take
roads.
the $400,000 that we already have in the
Right,
budget
right, right,
and
right.
move it into that account
Right.
and
That
we
sounds
work
like-
out of that.
That sounds like a to-do item for the open items.
Yes,
To me, warrant
You're not gonna
article.
use that 400,000 this year?
for 2025. Yes, we will use it. But again, what if we only use 300,000?
That's okay.
But the whole
Yeah.
point is it has to be a select board
No, I know
allocation.
that. Yeah.
But the other piece, and this is where we're going right now, is the conversation we had the other day, and then we talked about it being the same as what we
So,
found out.
If I can, so just time to finish, what we're talking about is an item for the open items list called warrant article for
Capital
Road-
reserve,
Yeah.
road reconstruction capital reserve fund.
Right.
We need to be clear that that's an item on the open items list to be talked about briefly and follow, and, you know, we'll keep our eye on that.
And that's
Okay, go ahead.
both
Resume.
paved roads
Please, Jeff.
And gravel.
For
And,
for
yeah.
all roads.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
highways, roadways in general.
So it'll be roughly $500,000.
That would be the intent, yeah.
Just point of
Go ahead,
interest.
yeah.
A dirt road that receives 35 cars per day
Yeah.
will lose 1 inch of surface per year.
Wow.
Just the dust.
Yeah.
That's just calculated between dust and.
Good to know.
So that brings us to the next part of the conversation, and this is not gonna be a surprise to anyone. But there's 3 roads that are in horrendous condition. And then we have 3 or 4 more roads that are not far behind them, as far as paving goes.
Can you name those for us,
And-
please?
The first one is Goose Pond Road, the extension that goes up behind
Yeah.
the pond.
Yeah.
Albert Hill.
I want to ask you about that one. When I looked at the report card sheet or whatever, it said condition good.
Well, we haven't updated.
That hasn't
any
been
of that.
updated. Fine.
That's just,
Good.
I don't even.
Because I
don't care
knew that
about
one
any of
was,
it.
was,
Yeah, no.
that
so
was definitely a
Goose Pond
failure.
Road that are good.
The first half of it is good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
The
But
first
by
half
the
is
lake-
good. The other
oh,
half is not, yeah, no.
It's, yeah.
But I had to
Well-
let people like it that way. It keeps the cars moving slow.
No.
So
I don't think so.
Switch Road and River Road are the other 2.
Agreed.
Which one?
agreed.
Switch Road and River Road,
Yeah.
that
yeah.
whole
Those
combination.
three are
So
bad,
if
yeah.
you said that we need to, let's say we want to fix those over the next 2 years, you're talking about 1.2 or $3 million.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include any infrastructure work. We do know that the Goose Pond section.
Yeah.
Almost all of those failures you're driving over
Yeah,
are failed drainage.
you need a lot of drainage work out there, right?
We have, what was it, 50 culverts?
I counted 50 that I
Yeah.
could find, and I couldn't really evaluate them because I
Oh my
couldn't
God.
see them.
We're estimating like 30, we're estimating 30 are really bad.
How are we
Um,
ever gonna?
I'm
pay
getting
for
a
that?
proposal, well, this is the question. See, this is, and sometimes it really follows the same mindset that you had with last year with getting the highway group caught up. Do we need to bond once?
Mhm.
For that? We're paying 150 or 160,000 a year for 10 years. And we use this same fund. But then we can keep moving on other projects at the same time to help us by the end of that 10 years to be caught up. And maybe we don't have to borrow money anymore. And that's the question. When I had just looked at the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. The issuance they did in July was 3.19% for 10 years. It's like, the rates are low. It's like getting
Mhm.
almost free money, when you talk about those kind of numbers.
Gonna go down as the feds.
Yes.
start to cut?
Yes.
Yes,
And this would be a spring issue for that, if we were to get approved, it would be a spring application issue, it's in July timeframe.
Mhm.
So that would be the kind of thing that we would wanna know if the voters are interested in. I think that's a question to say, look, this is our catch-up plan, and we would then take this, cause I'm showing you, if you look at what's here today. In 26, if we did these projects over the next 2 years, it would be a $523,000 deficit by 26, 769 by 27. If we started doing all of these roads in a list, and then it goes almost to 900,000 the year after that, But it shows, we didn't enter all the ones all the way out, but we start to get a little better, but it's like 10 years from now.
And by the way, excuse me, that presupposes that we saved how much each year? And then we go that much negative that you.
400,000 plus 400,000 plus inflation.
So let me try to summarize. What Chet's saying is, even if we set aside,
Right.
either by general budget or the student reserve fund, doesn't matter. Let's say 400 to 450,000 per year. In the next in order to fix the failed roads, I'm
Mhm.
hearing. In the next 4 years or so, we would end up about $900,000 in the hole.
Correct.
That's what I just heard.
Oh, easily.
All right.
So I mean,
Well,
that's just,
those are approximate numbers, but yeah.
right, but that's
yeah.
just, that's
So
just
that's the
what
challenge.
it is. And basically it's, how do we skin this cat? It's,
Right.
you know, and the voters, they say, look, you want the roads fixed. Well, if we do it this way, we might not go negative and we can keep the fund relatively stable. You know what I mean, over the next 5 years. And we're already funding it 400,000. If it went to 450 or 460 and we lease and we finance that one, we might be okay going forward. And my thing is, if you'd like, I will do that math and say, what do we have to do to make it positive and do it in a relative time frame?
So if I could discuss that for a moment, I don't know how to ask the voters that question. You know what I'm saying?
No, well, it's not,
Does
you're not
the
asking that
select board need
question.
to take the lead on that and have an open town
Yeah,
forum
it's-
discussion to get a sense of where the voters want to go with that? I don't know how to do
Goose
that.
Pond Road is a complex problem to begin with.
Right,
Because that was done, I wanna say 20 years ago or so. I think it was about 10, but the very first thing you have to do is you have to get DES. Shoreline protection permits, because you're
Goose Pond,
within,
yeah,
because you're
yeah,
within
so
200
close to the
feet.
water, yeah.
Yeah, we've actually already asked for proposals from the engineer to do the drainage and permitting to tell us to do an analysis of what we're gonna have to do.
Because what had to happen last time, DES requirement was. I know they didn't replace all the culverts, but all those that had to be replaced. The road itself could not be crowned, it had to slope away from the pond. So that the water ran down the ditches
Yeah, yeah,
into the culverts, so you get a concentrated stream into the lake instead of filtered through the woods.
What did they gain? What did they gain? Nothing.
No, but
Anyway,
I mean,
think I'm asking you a different question.
They're
if I may,
being
Scott.
So you've got a significant engineering cost with this
Sure,
job as
sure.
well.
I have a different question. I accept that and I understand that. It makes sense and
Yeah.
I know. But I have a different question, which is, what Chet just described is the town has an option in front of us. Perhaps one option anyway is to find a way to pay for the repair of failed roads. I'm focusing on the ones that are the worst. What he's saying is we don't have enough money in the budget in any 1 year to fix them all.
No.
If we try to just fix them all with general budget money, it's gonna take years and we'll never catch up because other ones will fail. So what he's saying is, one way or another, we gotta get more money up front. Does the town wanna try to increase the general?
I
budget
can't speak for the
spending?
whole board, but
Right.
myself, from my experience, the only way we're going to get caught up is we're going to have to either take a set of roads or Goose Pond Road. We're going to have to look at bonding it.
Well, that's the question.
In
Or do we
order
wanna
to
bond
get-
it? And the question, and he said, ask the voters. What I'm
Well, no,
saying
no,
is-
no, no. Ask
do
the
we do
vote, what
that?
I mean by asking the voters is. The capital budget committee says, hey, give us an example of what this would look like. What is it gonna take to make that happen?
Right.
Okay? And then we go to the select board and we get
That's
that, and we
the-
have a
yeah.
public
All
hearing,
right.
or a public
That's kind of
discussion.
where I was going.
But the other
Not-
part of it is, it's basically just, once we educate the public on, this is what it's gonna take. Then it's just be on the ballot, shall the town borrow $1.6 million to do these
Proposed
things?
bond issue that would go on the ballot
Right,
and with some numbers behind it that would say how much. it
all,
would cost.
this entire plan
Right.
would be on there.
You can't go with a bond if you don't have the numbers, what it's going to go for.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, you come ask me for $100 and I say, what do you want it for? You say, for my pocket. I'm not giving it to you.
So when I said numbers, meaning what it will cost each year in payments.
Yes,
correct.
Thereafter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's about 160 or 70,000 in this bond range. So a year.
Okay, so do we need to have a follow-up?
Well,
item on that?
all you're gonna do for the follow-up is instruct me to, let me make the plan showing the bond debt.
So that's the item for the, one at a time, guys.
Okay,
I'll come with you, very next one, Sal.
No, that's okay.
So for the open item list, what we're
Okay.
saying here is, we're gonna ask Chet to propose,
Funding
Uh,
mechanism.
a bond funded mechanism for road repairs.
Right.
Let's just leave it at that for now.
Yep. That works.
Enough to remind us to talk about it
Yep.
again.
No, yeah, I
you're
got
on.
my answer. I got one.
Yeah, cause I mean, was it, that portion of, Goose Pond Road is 655,000, that's just the paving, that's not even any drainage. 162,000 for the River Road section and 588,000 for Switch Road. So I mean, these are big numbers, they're basically reclaim and pave numbers. And then we have to add in the drainage and that'll be a whole nother conversation, which is why, it's also why the bonding is so important in this particular case. Because we gotta get some kind of number together to look at the drainage piece of it, and that's gonna have to happen pretty quickly. So that's really where we are, and otherwise, cause there's,
The drainage on Switch and River Road are minimal compared. to-
Minimal compared to
Yes.
that. I can see
I
that.
found
I know.
one failed culvert on Switch Road. believe it
right,
or
and
not.
the difference is Switch Road and River Road are things we can do in-house.
We don't wanna tackle.
Goose Pond is so much,
Yeah.
with so many rules,
You'd have to hire.
we gotta hire
contractors.
people to do it, so it's gonna be
Right.
more expensive
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Right, where Switch Road and River Road, like,
You'll do them.
our crew could
Your
do
crew will
that.
do it.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I
Got it,
found
got it.
3 or 4 on the paved part of River
Got
Road.
it.
Right,
And all those were, as they're actually in good condition, but needed to be
Upsized.
upsized in a couple. of
So
them.
real
Yeah.
quick, behind those three that have failed, what are the next three that you said are almost as bad? Got those
it
handy?
is,
And,
that's Stark Hill.
Stark Hill Road, yeah, which is just a small section of
All
pavement.
right, and
And
Stark Hill.
what's the
Oh,
name of
Grist-
it? What's
Stark
Grist
Hill.
Mill Road, trying to align Grist Mill Road timing wise with the bridge reconstruction.
I'm not sure you need to write these down, it's, for minutes, it's, we're just looking at the plan a
Right,
little bit.
Grist Mill Road Bridge is being
Yeah.
done in 27.
And you're gonna,
And it's
Some
in a really
very
bad
cool,
condition,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that would be the ideal time. You're gonna have a paving contractor here. We could just do.
You're not
keep
gonna have a
going.
mobilization
And the
cost
last
added
one.
to it.
one more,
And the other one was, is that Blackwater Road.
Blackwater Road.
Blackwater, okay.
Yeah.
The reason I was asking is I thought, thought I saw on the report card, Talbot Hill Road as being failed. And I scratched my head and said, wait a minute, we
That
fixed
was-
that.
yeah, that was
Just
just-
I think that's one that was
Oh,
on the old
because
list that hasn't been
It
updated
hasn't been
yet.
updated.
Yeah.
That's really where that's going.
Okay.
got it.
Bob
So
Scott
those
did,
are the
Talbot,
first
yeah.
6 roads, and none of the other ones are anywhere near
All
the
right.
volume of Switch Road and Goose Pond as far as dollars go.
Put a cap on that. Do we need an action item? Keep an eye on getting the report card updated one of these days.
Well, the hope is, my goal is once we're getting nuts and bolts and we're flying through this, is you're gonna have a really pretty one by the time we're done, that has all
So
of these things
You're
fixed.
saying there's no need to really track that as a separate.
No,
item.
because when you
So
get the
before
final
you-
one, like up there, that's
Fine.
basically like a punch
I'll
list.
buy
When I
that.
give you the final one, you go, okay, well, I'd
I'll
like to
buy
see
that.
this, and this.
I'll buy that, okay.
We'll do it like a punch list item.
So what else do we need to say about the roads?
I mean, realistically,
Well, you focused on paved roads. Tell us a little bit about gravel road maintenance.
the biggest problem with our
strategy.
gravel roads is the garbage we've been putting on them for the last 10 or 15 years.
Right.
We've been
Very
putting a lot of
silty
silt based stuff, and what it's doing is it's holding the moisture and the mud gets worse.
Yeah, hearing that.
We are working in what's in the budget right now, and what we're proposing is we're buying manufactured sand, and we're also gonna be trying to add the 3/4 inch gravel to the
To the wear
to the
surface.
wherever we have, like when we have a swampy area, it's like we'll just load it up with some stone, try to firm it up a little bit. And if, we did that in Killington where we had roads that, my wife, we bought a Subaru Outback when they were first talking about them. And she went on this road called whatever it was. And she had so much mud that it sprayed up over the roof. Okay, and when we took it, because she started making noise because there were stones in the brakes, and also she took it back to the dealer and they put it out front. and said, look what the car can do. You know, with car advertisement. But we actually did the same thing where we started, even in a muddy situation, we started putting some decent aggregate in.
Yeah,
And adding good material, and then definitely not using excavated sand. We were using manufactured stone sand, and what a difference. I mean, and it got to the point where if we always kept some of the sand separated, not salting it. The manufactured stuff, because it was so good that if you had like a mud hole, we would go dump like 2 loads of sand with no salt in it,
Right.
and they'd firm right up.
so the bottom line is that currently in the budget plans for road maintenance?
We
That
have
kind of
not, we have not gotten to the point where we're saying which road needs it when. We're not there.
Right.
We just
Okay.
have we know that we're gonna
Fine.
need about 80,000 a year.
So much a
Going
year and go-
forward.
And
See,
you
a
work
lot-
the first ones first.
Right.
A lot of that usage is determined in the spring
Yes. I
as to where
understand
the
that.
mud appears.
I understand that. Yeah, I do.
So every year you take care of the worst.
So you have a number in the budget
Yes.
that would, I agree, you may not know which road, and I don't care
Right.
about that, sitting here. But as long as you have money in general budget.
Yep.
For that kind of activity,
There,
for the material and the labor.
and that's the 80,000 in addition to the 400 we have for paving. That's the 2 road numbers.
Separately, yeah.
Yes. And then we don't have the 80,000 in there right now, I don't think.
I'm
for that.
sorry, earlier today I heard the 81 was for material only.
Yes.
Now you're saying that, I thought I heard you say it was intended to cover both,
No. Oh,
material and labor,
no,
No.
not labor.
no?
No,
All
it's
right,
still
so
just
how do we
material.
pay for the labor? It's just coming out of the.
Well, that's,
That's
their work, when they're working,
Sound-
it's just
okay,
what
yeah,
material they
yeah.
go in to buy.
It's in the budget then, but it's under a
Right.
different category.
Yes.
Yeah, under your
Under
salary
labor,
wages.
salaries,
Yeah.
yeah, got it, all right.
Jen, on the sheet that you handed out for the highway paving plan.
Yep.
Paved roads. In fiscal year 2025, you have a annual tax appropriation of 100,000.
That was 400,000. I changed it the other day and I didn't keep it there. It's
That
400,000.
changes your.
Yes.
$300,000.
Yeah, good pickup, Sal, yeah, that's gonna be corrected. Can you correct that?
I just
as
did, yeah.
What you just did, all
That's
right,
supposed to be
thanks.
400,09, 050, like all the others.
Well, what that is that represents the amount of money to start from 0. Because that's what we did this year.
I understand. But
So, yes, that's fine. I got it.
100 is supposed to be 409.
Yeah,
Is it
409.
supposed to be the 409?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's dramatically. changed.
And you just
Numbers
fixed
going
it.
forward.
Yes.
All right, fine. All
So
right.
that's all I really have on the road discussion. I mean, we're just basically gonna refine the list a little better, try and do the spreadsheet, but basically the conversation is gonna be around how do we fund it? And going forward. So I think that's where
Well, it's
the
a
bulk
question
of
of how we
it.
fund it in what timeframe, really.
Correct.
really
Right.
talking
And then
about.
what-
I mean, cause if I were to say, what's the best we could do? As far as timing goes. Next summer, we could reclaim, pave and replace the little bit of drainage on Switch and River. I believe we would be reclaiming, Goose Pond Road and spending the summer doing drainage. And then the following year having to pave.
Yeah, I think, Bob, what you need to be thinking about is in the plan for what time frame wants to be for these, is do you have the manpower to get the work done that the plan is calling for?
Yeah, Goose Pond, we wouldn't be able to.
The
do
Goose
that.
Pond
We'd
is
have to
not,
do
that's not gonna be
that.
done in-house.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Oh,
right? So
yeah.
Yeah,
there's a-
Goose Pond is not in-house.
So there would be an additional cost over and above.
Well, that's why I say, like, when you look at the
But-
paving,
For
it's
saying
like,
that if you're looking at minimum 1.5 million. Because there's parts of that can be done in-house, but it might just be worth it
we're,
to
we're-
just farm that whole job.
I don't think we're doing anything in-house on Goose Pond.
That's okay. I'm saying it's an
You know, just
additional cost
realistically,
that's not
yes.
showing up in any of our
I have a question about
Correct.
Goose Pond Road.
Yeah.
It may not be a
If you want to get it
CIP,
done in a quick timeframe.
sorry,
If you wanna get it done, period. Because you're gonna run in, there's spots out there,
I mean,
that part of the drainage issue
Yeah,
is New Hampshire.
okay.
We're called the Granite State for a reason.
yeah, yeah. So I have a question.
So in other words, we don't have the equipment and the manpower to do the job.
no,
No, it's not
No,
on
no,
that.
no.
because
That's fine, I'm just
everything else in
saying that,
town would
you know.
stop for the summer, like every other piece of
Yeah, I
maintenance
can
in
see
the
that
town
we
would stop.
wouldn't. Have you been on that road? Are you familiar with it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And this is another
So-
one of those roads that only ever had cottages on it.
yeah.
In the 60s, to keep the dust down, it received what they call an oil penetration. It's where they spray an emulsion oil and put sand over the top of it. That gives you a 1/2 inch surface.
Yep.
It solved the dust problem. But then all these camps out there, 3/4 of them are now year-round housing.
Right, that's right.
So just your
There are new ones
traffic,
going up.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I see.
the road maintenance, like I say, when it was done last time, about 20 years ago, that here again, there's a lot of money put in out there, but it was still basically band-aided.
Mhm.
And we've had more houses since, more traffic. And it's reaching a point, as most of our roads are reaching a point that they've got to be reconstructed to what today's use is going forward.
So my question about that road is, may not really be CIP question, but it might affect how much it's all gonna cost. Is those 50 or so culverts that need repair, that go across the road toward the lake. Even if we can get DES approval and so on how to do those. How do we keep that road open for the 3/4 of the year-round residents that are out there? That's a pretty narrow road. It's pretty hard in my mind to picture doing culvert work across the road without shutting the road down. There's almost no other access to
Typically,
the back end of the pond,
the,
except up that road.
there's gonna have to be two parts of every culvert, because it's still wider than
It's
one
wide
culvert
enough to
length.
do half at a
We
time.
were gonna have to do it as a half at a time thing
Can we-
and
will that
traffic
work?
control it.
Yeah, yeah, well, whatever contract will have, they'll have to be part of
It's
it.
gonna have to
Right,
be.
because
yeah.
Part of the
Yeah,
bid,
you're
too,
gonna-
that they
you're gonna have
understand they can't just keep shutting the road down.
you're gonna have to have at
Yeah.
least, you're gonna have to have at least 30 feet of culvert. You're gonna have a few feet on this side, a few, and like
Right.
20 or 22 of gravel. So they're gonna have to have a joint somewhere. So that's how it's just gonna have to
Also
work.
between 35 and 40 feet,
Right.
with some a little. over.
And those that are seasonal,
Mhm.
I've done it numerous times, is you end up. You generally work from the outlet anyway, which would be lakeside. So you take that material and you fill in that ditch, so you create that temporary
Yeah.
access
Right.
till you
right.
get the first half in, then you
Find a way to
transfer
keep it
to.
open.
Right,
Yeah.
widen the shoulder a little.
Yeah,
bit.
you
I was
have
just
to
wondering
widen,
if
it's
that-
more work, but it keeps the road,
From a CIP point of view, I was just wondering if that would drive the cost way up, the need to be able to
Not
somehow.
really.
All right, fine.
No,
All right.
That's pretty normal.
It's standard.
practice.
The issue is going to go with any of the culverts that end up with flat bottoms and have to have material inside the culvert, like to meet streams requirements.
DES, the last. ruling
That's where
that
they
I-
get entertaining.
That's what I say, last ruling I had, that was only 48" and up that they were requiring.
Right, but
For,
they usually make you do
stream
a
bed.
squash pipe. And if they're doing bank full width, that's like 4 feet isn't that much. We're gonna have
No.
a couple of
I
those.
think there was 2 or 3 that,
Yeah.
really big ones that needed to be.
And
And
we
they're
should
gonna have
look,
the
we
full
should
street
look at
capacity.
them too as just open bottom box.
Could be,
Well, yeah, that'll be however they wanna
Yeah,
permit it and what our size is,
Right.
cause the other problem we end up with is freeboard, which nobody really usually pays attention to.
So actually, what Scott mentioned earlier, the engineering costs behind all that, where does that fit into all of the?
That
financial
would
picture?
be, we're gonna get a proposal to have them, I got 2 proposals supposedly coming. Hopefully here shortly, that we will have them be able to go out and say, like, I asked for just somebody to walk out and say. Here's the number of culverts you have. Here's. The sizes that are there, they're probably undersized. They can do a general kind of a look and which ones are gonna be streams. And then they can throw me standard costs for them. And then we
Right.
can start the plan and the engineering cost would be in the bond. That's all part of the
That's what I-
project. That's a project
Let's
cost.
say it's gonna be $1 million for engineering costs.
It's not gonna be $1 million.
It's-
dollars.
no.
It's gonna
Whatever it's
be,
gonna be, it's
80
gonna be,
grand.
it would be included in the proposed bond.
yes.
I see.
Everything,
Yeah,
that is
okay.
this
That was my
particular
question.
one it's a complete project.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
has to be.
got it.
So-
Engineering and construction.
Is there any of this, that's eligible for state funding or any outside funding besides just the town?
Good question. Federal infrastructure funding?
That will lose a year, but we could ask FEMA for grants for. Mitigation potentially, but I don't.
I was gonna say, the only place I know, but I don't know if we are actually looking at any mitigation issues out there. Because everything was supposed to have been upgraded that needed it
Yeah.
last time. But,
We can talk to NRCS, they
Yeah.
might be interested.
I'd be with you. I wouldn't be too optimistic. that
I mean,
they
we're
would
gonna ask
do
those
that.
questions,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm not optimistic at all.
I wouldn't be either, knowing the situation.
Yeah, because, and the good thing is that part of the project is gonna be the year behind Switch Road, River Road, because we gotta do all the drainage at one time, so
Yeah.
we'll see where we
Yeah,
get.
can't hurt to ask, but
Yeah, it just, I think in
I
this
don't think we're
particular
down on
case,
it.
we're bonding and they're like, well, bond an extra $100,000, why we wanna give you
I
free?
think we need to proceed on the worst case. We should proceed on the worst case, not.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I am.
Yeah,
I work,
but
we
go ahead
work,
and ask for that and check
we
it out.
plan for the worst
Yeah.
case and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Because one of the issues we've got this year, twice FEMA has run out of money this year alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Grants, that's the one thing that is an unfortunate of where we've been. Grants are pretty much over, like any grants, because when all the stimulus money was put out, it was all put to infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
It all had to be, by the end of 25, it all has to be,
Spent by next year.
it has to be allocated
Yeah.
in an ongoing project at the
Committed,
very
has to be at
least,
least
yes,
committed.
at least
next
committed.
year. All right, got it.
And even some of those are starting to dry up. And the thing is the states have been relying on that so much and their other parts of their
Yeah,
budget
yeah,
have been
yeah.
kind of going nuts. And it's like, I
That's
think
right.
there's gonna be a couple of years of.
Yeah.
What do you mean grant?
Yeah, I hear you.
There has to be.
You see, it was your highway block grant.
Yeah,
That was A and B. A replaced the old Duncan funds, which was strictly asphalt. That's what Duncan funds paid for.
All right.
That went away.
Yeah.
That was put in with your block grant B. Originally, they wanted everybody to use that money as grant money for specific projects. Well, a lot of these towns got themselves in trouble with the paperwork end of it. So then the state recommended that that block grant money all be put in to offset your operating cost budget. So what that did is everybody says, we'll put it into the operating cost. Okay, what are you gonna do for that $100,000 that you've been doing project work with? Now it's all in, because rather than taking town funds, say, okay, we're going to take $100,000 that we've been spending on operating, use that for project, infuse block grant to replace it, so the paperwork shows it being used. They just infused it, saved that $100,000, if that's what they're getting, and the project money went
Well,
away.
I heard you say a lot of towns did that. I don't believe we did. We were getting NHDOT block grant money and applying it to road repairs and maintenance.
well, the
Is
way
that
it
money-
works,
Excuse me, is that money still flowing?
The money, yeah,
Yes.
there's still block grant.
There's still an HDOT block grant
Yes.
funding each year for, that we can put to.
They-
Fine.
again, and it's like 160,000 or something in
Yeah.
ballpark
Okay.
that we're getting.
I
And,
just
but what it does
understood
is
they
it
didn't
just
shut
goes
off
to the
that
general
figure.
fund, but we are putting money in our roads. So it just depends on how you
In
look at
addition to
it.
that.
It's not allocated to it, let's say. But it is, we do get that and we do
Right,
fund
right.
our roads to some degree.
See what was happening, typical of the block, it had to be spent the year it was given.
Right,
And towns, they'd run into a delay in their project.
yep,
You're not allowed to carry that block grant money over year to
Understand.
year. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
state says, put it through your budget so you
Sure.
know it, you spend that first.
sure,
essentially.
right. Okay, understood. Anything else on roads that anybody wants to?
I don't see, Bob, what condition is Gould Road in?
What road, Mark?
Gould Road goes from
Goose Pond.
Goose Pond Road over to
Oh, yeah,
Gates.
the gravel, part, yeah,
Yeah.
it goes over up to Gates Country.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all gravel, right?
Yeah, that's on the,
Yes.
it's actually in the gravel section.
They had, they used to
The
have a
asphalt
paved
condition
apron
is-
just
It did,
over
yeah,
the
so in
ledge.
good condition?
No, as
There-
well as the.
It's better than it used to be.
Well, we can grade them, you know, that's the thing with the gravel.
Better than it used to be.
At least we can, you know, it's, well, not cheaper probably, but at least we have the ability to maintain the gravel a lot easier.
That was the drainage on it.
What's the name of that road?
I haven't looked at.
Gould, it's in the gravel, it's in the
Gould.
gravel road section,
Yeah,
G,
Gould.
yeah.
under Gore Road.
There's no G's on
Should be there.
Well, you're, might be in the paving section. I'm in the gravel section.
the line.
Two different sections.
Gravel section,
Oh, yeah?
Abbott, Andrew.
Was it gravel or paved?
It's gravel.
It's gravel.
It's a gravel road.
But I have, cause down below, there's Fernwood Farms, then Follinsby, Box Hill, Gore, Gold. Is what I'm reading off of here. And you can see it up there. I don't know.
This is on the gravel.
Yes.
Not on my-
Interesting that you don't see it.
Okay, well then, did it disappear? Okay, well, I will resend you.
That's interesting.
It's on there. I haven't touched any of that. So, yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna work
So,
on the financing
Sal,
part
I'm
of it.
looking at one emailed yesterday on my computer, and there it is.
On the capital budget side?
No, it's in the
Capital
thing
worksheet.
called
Capital work-
gravel
okay.
road.
Okay,
worksheet.
remember what happens in the capital budget?
Yeah, I got you.
Only ones that have a plan attached to them shift over. It doesn't give you the full list because why does the public
Right.
want to look at the ones you're not
But it's
working with?
there, it's there in the worksheet, okay.
Okay,
If that's it, then we'll proceed to buildings. And Bob can stay or go as he. I'm sure this is so much fun.
so on the road side, two things that I wanted to make sure we looked at. One is the total valuation of our buildings, which is way undervalued, just looking at a couple of them, so we're gonna be working on updating it, but currently. That's $5,173,000 is what our total buildings is worth, and that does not include the meeting house, and it's not in the list.
Ooh,
So basically, the standard for appropriating funds for capital improvement is about 3%. And that's about 155,000 of the 5.1 is what you should be allocating to the fund
3% per year.
per year.
So Tom, excuse me for a second, what, Chad is referring to is this list that he handed out. Bear with me, folks. What Chad is referring to,
Yeah.
is this list that he handed out.
Yep.
Okay,
As you can see, it's got a value column.
Yep.
And the numbers he was just talking about are the numbers in that column, but very importantly, the museum the meeting house is blank. Because the insurance company wasn't
Well, if-
carrying it.
We haven't told them
So,
because we actually
I
fill
hear
that
you.
out, so
So
it's
I
one of
wanted
those.
to catch up the note taking here with that.
Yeah. So your goal at this time, and I think when we get done with it, it's probably gonna be about 100,000. I mean, the 5.1 million is gonna be closer to probably 8 when we get the valuations, correct?
Yeah,
So you're probably gonna be in the 225, 240 for the entire town's buildings that you're gonna want to appropriate. So we just want to just keep that in the back of my mind right now. But what I did do is look at what I would call emergency repairs, and I have one that's a placeholder. Or actually, two of them, numbers wise, I want to kind of refine them. But one is the museum. We know that porch has rotted and there's a hole in the front. Michael has not had a chance to dig into it because his father was ill and he went to Florida, so
which Michael?
DMS. The
Fine.
guy who did
Oh, okay.
so he was just gonna go do an investigation and I just threw 10
I
grand in
heard
it just
about
as a
that. Porch.
placeholder.
That's the
Yeah.
problem, yeah.
The other item is the town garage. I don't know if any of you saw the work that we did on the front of the building there where we had to take the panels off and rebuild the header. It was all rot inside that wall. And it was leaking in on the building and that's gonna cost us somewhere $8,000. Something in that neighborhood. But the one thing that also has been identified when you look at the Quonset hut, I remember, I don't know if you guys know about that, but we had to replace the electrical panel because it had rotted from water being on it. And there's a couple of leaks and it was a nail that was actually driven on an angle that the water was following down and running on the panel. So that's all, well and good at this point. But what we discovered as part of that, because the main panel is just inside the door, that panel is still getting water inside the town garage. And I went out and I was looking around, and if you look on the four corners of the building, there's 4 vents. I don't know if they're power vents, but they're vented systems on the building. They have the same header situation that we had on the front windows. And that one is right above that electrical panel, and I have a feeling
Probably coming right through that.
that's coming through that vent, and I think we have leaks there, and I think we gotta fix all 4 of them. So I threw 25 grand at it just in case.
Where'd you, in the general budget you put
Well,
together?
No,
Here or
this,
what?
it's not in there yet. That's one of the things that we're gonna be adding tomorrow. But I put $25,000 in there for the town garage as a capital
Emergency repair.
budget, but it's not just it's not like a maintenance repair. This is, we're gonna have to reconstruct, rebuild the header, this is
Yeah.
you make the repair and do that. The other piece is the senior center. When we fixed that roof this year, we spent about 20-something thousand dollars. I don't, you don't remember the number off the top of your head. do you?
44.
That's the price for the next time.
No, that's,
We spent 44 for that first one?
it came in way more than we.
Okay, so that's ugly.
Really?
Yeah, because
Whoa.
they found tons of well, the
Whoa.
handicap ramp was rotted, everything was rotted above, it was open air. So the other three sides of the roof need to be done. They don't have the rot or the holes in them right now, but the one on the back that was done about 8 years ago was a third layer of shingles over two other failed layers. And therefore the warranty doesn't exist and it's just going to be a problem, and the weaves weren't good, so we have a price of $44,000 to fix the rest of the roof. That's why I was
Wow.
confused when you said it's the same number.
Did you-
Uh,
I can go look at the invoice.
Yeah, I forget now.
If
But
three
it's
more
40
sides are gonna cost 44, it doesn't sound
44
right that it was 44 for the one.
Right, the 44 is the proposal we got from DMS for budgeting purposes for the other three sides of the roof. And that's what it's going,
It's a grain side.
yes.
Now, there's one other well-known major repair that everybody knows about that you didn't mention in them, but I'm sure there's a reason. And that's the clock tower on the meeting house.
You got it, John, 16.
He didn't mention it just now.
Well, no, I'm not there yet.
Oh, you're not there yet.
That's the,
Okay,
it's,
keep going.
okay. I don't,
I thought he
I
said
don't-
there were three emergency repairs and I heard.
No, there-
museum,
no,
town
there's-
Garage and senior center.
I added the meeting house as a line item,
Yeah,
okay? And their budget for the repairs that have to be done on the meeting house is $198,000.
but just the clock tower? or
No,
a
it's
lot
for
of
the,
things?
all.
No, for
they-
all the repairs.
all the
that-
repairs that are necessary. They had somebody come in and an architect and do an analysis, and it comes in at that. Currently, if you look at monies that are coming out of the meeting house fund, and grants that have been applied for, currently, we need to have $16,220 of town money for that project. The issue becomes, and when we start talking about, what do we actually want to start the budget for appropriations for buildings, is what if we don't get any one of those grants?
What if you don't come in? Yeah.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like if we don't, because the one thing that I will say, and this was in talking to John, the L-chip and those, they really are focused on making sure that we have a fund and a plan going forward, that we're actually starting to fund these projects, because they don't want to come here and spend their $100,000, because I think that was the biggest part of it. I think the L-chip was 72,000 and like 50,000 was money from the meeting house fund. And then there was 10 or 12,000 from the town, to get that first phase done. But they don't want to give us all that money and then us let it sit for the next 10 years and deteriorate again. You know what I mean? They want to see the capital plan and all of this. And the question becomes, and this is actually more of a question than it is anything else, is how do we want to start to fund these projects? When you look at it and you go, well, you're supposed to be putting 155,000 away. The numbers I'm talking about right now, there's 95 and things we kind of really need to do now. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, what do we want to start to appropriate? We've been appropriating nothing virtually in this. I think 40,000 in the repair budget is what we've been using to this point.
Yeah, pretty much
In
In the general budget?
the general budget. So, it's basically, we need to pick a number to say, well, okay, over the next 5 years, knowing that when we up this, it's like we need to be at $225,000. And we're at 40 right now. How do you want to start breaking this funding, so then I can create a plan that we can actually look at it and say, here's what it's going to be. And the assumption for the time being is that we're going to get some of these grants.
Okay, so grants certainly for the meeting house because of its
Right.
historical nature and all that, but in a broader sense for building maintenance. I'm listening to you and I'm wondering, are you saying, without having said it out loud, that it would possibly lend itself as well to a capital reserves funding.
Well, we have a
mechanism,
capital reserve. account.
like you were talking about for roads.
No,
Um,
it's that building one. that
There
we
is
had
one
that-
for buildings,
the
yeah,
one
yeah.
we Just like for real established in March.
I believe when it was passed originally, now I wasn't here, but I believe it was a fund that was created by the voters to build new buildings. And I would suggest that you check on that.
Okay, we'll check on it
Doesn't mean
because
there's
we may
any
have to revise
restrictions on
it.
There you go.
We
That's
may
where I'm
have to
going.
revise it.
Either create a new reserve fund for building maintenance
We do have- 'cause
or
remember-
revise that one maybe.
Remember in March how we had the buildings fund, we were putting money in it, but it was never legally established. So
Right.
we had to run the warrant article to
Right.
establish it. But in that warrant article, we didn't say what are we gonna use it for?
There you go.
We just said like buildings. So we
All I'm
have
saying is
to-
a legal check.
Yeah, we'll do,
I'd
and
be
we'll do
okay
that,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
If legally we can use it for that, fine.
Right.
If not,
Well,
we should.
We're not gonna need to, if we have to make any changes, we'll just revise it.
That's
So
okay.
we're not gonna
Right.
add one, we don't need another one.
All right,
But right
so.
now you have $245,000. But this is telling me I got 195, but we still have another 50 that we put in.
Yeah, we did have a chunk of money in it. We just spent the 98. for the-
Let's say it was 98 something for the last final payment on the
So
library.
there you go, that's part of the question.
So I gotta,
It's
up-
illegal to use that money for painting, you know?
well, it was considered a capital upgrade because they did siding repair, they did structural repair, they did a bunch of repairs, and painting was also saving the building.
I-
So, and we'll
Don't get me
verify,
wrong, I'm not
we'll
opposed to
verify,
what I'm
right?
saying, we need to clarify that.
Yep, and then I have to
Maybe-
update, and none of these numbers are updated based on what we spent
Right, right.
for this, so I gotta do all that.
So if you don't mind for follow-up, I'd like to ask Tom Dan and I to do a list, which would be clarify legal uses for building capital reserve.
Because the other reason I want
Is that
to,
okay?
review it is, does the select board or the voters have to authorize expenditures?
Right. Well,
So
that's the other.
that's
piece.
the other piece,
Yeah,
is how we're gonna
We
go
can make it all
about
part of
Yeah.
that same item.
that. Right,
So clarify the legal uses for the building capital reserve fund. Is that okay?
yep,
Good. All right.
and that's all I have for current emergencies, and
So,
right now it's.
On
planning.
those. Tell me about the tool itself and putting those numbers that you've been telling us about into the tool and looking at the total impact year by year.
And basically, it's gonna be that, well, it'll be by the next meeting, I would assume, so,
By next week sometime, probably. The week after you're gonna be off, right?
well, yeah, we can have that
We're
conversation.
gonna have that, but the point is. So next week, right?
I would think, the end
We'll
of
get
next
to
week,
there in a minute.
the end of next week, you should have like some updated numbers to start looking at
In the.
in the
file.
folder, yeah.
Yeah, and certainly before, again, we'll get to his vacation, but before you leave, if you could email out whatever you have
Yep.
at that point in time. Then folks like Tal and I, whatever, we can work on it,
Yep.
look at it and think
No,
about it.
that'd be good.
All right, instead of waiting till the day before.
Oh, yeah.
The next meeting.
Well, the
gotta
thing
be
is
done for.
the roads went back and forth a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's been a pain in the butt. This is way more straightforward.
Either way, whatever you have on both of them, you can send it all out before
'Cause-
you go.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention, when you look at the previous capital budget plan, there was something about a $300,000 addition to the town garage,
Right,
and
it was.
also renovations for the town hall.
Yes.
Right,
And it's like, are we gonna keep those in there, or,
those
you know,
were
I don't-
prospective uses of the 40K we were setting aside.
right?
Yeah.
So the issue becomes, like, is it really an addition, or are we putting like another building on the site? A metal building that you can park trucks in and do the wash offs and stuff like that,
You do all those things
right?
with.
I mean, 300,000 is pretty low, so it's one of those
Well,
That
conversations.
was a reasonable basis for it
Costed
2
out.
years ago.
Right.
It Costed out 2 years.
It was
Okay.
reasonable.
Well, I'll see if I can find out what that's based on, so I'll
I-
keep those in there for the
I
time
have
being
that.
for conversation.
I
You
have
do?
that.
Okay. that'd be
I
great.
have the summary sheet
Okay,
that shows what the basis of that 300K was.
that would be good
I
to
have-
We
know.
didn't have anything.
Because that was
on the
part of
town
this
hall.
committee's work.
There was nothing.
Yeah, that's
no
just as
other
a-
reports, I don't believe, on what we were gonna do at town hall, right?
No,
Right?
so we're not. And this committee was not involved with the town hall at all.
That's right. And they
Okay.
were thinking about actually a whole new building rather than.
They were.
Well, there's
all
been
kinds
the
of
conversation
possibilities.
about the
Very
log
new.
cabin and additions
Yeah.
and modifications
All
and
kinds
yada,
of-
yada, yada.
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very up in the air.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That's still been up in the air because of limited parking at the current site is one of the major problems.
Well, I actually have, I forget his name. the surveyor we've used in town before.
Scott Sanborn.
That
Got
helps,
some input? Yeah,
to give me a proposal, because when you look at the tax maps and stuff, it appears that if it says that our frontage from the intersection's like 100 feet, there might be like 40 or 50 feet that's still town owned that could be used.
which way?
To
On the
my-
main, on Route
No,
4?
no, on Canaan Street,
On Canaan
Toward-
Street,
headed
headed
down
north,
Canaan Street. So it may be that we actually have some room
maybe.
to
So,
modify.
Can I ask a question about that, though, Scott? You said parking is an issue. I'm curious, why isn't the municipal lot across Route 4 from the town office sufficient parking for the town office?
The biggest problem is just getting across Route 4.
Why is that a big problem?
If you have elderly people or people who are with handicap,
Yeah,
it's a serious problem for them
Okay.
getting across.
accessibility.
And I,
Yes.
and I would say that there's a lot of times when it's pretty full. And,
Yes.
you know, if we added 6 or 7 everyday cars to it, you'd be out of space because the senior center's using it, everybody's using that.
And the safety problem where the access is for the town office is the traffic coming and going out of Evans's.
Right.
Because that creates not only the visibility problem of people parking on the road in front of Evans, but you also have people that are in a hurry to get in and a hurry to get out, and they don't pay attention to people who are trying to cross the road.
Okay. That's the first time I ever heard in 10 years that parking was a problem at the town hall because of the fact that we have 4 or 5 existing spaces, plus that lot across the road. I had never heard that before.
Well, I will say that, just so you know, all the parking along Canaan Street on the road is almost always staff or town
Mhm.
parking on the road. So
Mhm.
we are parking probably 3 spots above just for the town office, above what's parking available there, not including the library.
And there was when Rib Place was going in, talking about that, the economic development.
The barbecue parking.
They have their own parking lot, right? But
Sorry?
Well, we were
No,
gonna
so
use,
anyway, we were talking about it, and one of the things that came up was the log cabin area.
right,
We clean that out, we can make that for parking for the staff. For the Rib Place, rather than have them park around, number one, and you could also, to clean that up, have that parking for the town hall staff. And the library staff, you could put all of those people there, and then you'll clean up some spaces for people who are coming in and out. People who can-
So, I mean,
It's just a thought, but.
most
just put it
days-
On the table.
toward noontime, with the senior center working,
Mhm.
very limited choice of spaces across from town hall.
That's what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
so if you went behind that.
The other thing you have to keep in mind for our staff is that when you move the cars that far apart, this morning's fine. When it's pouring rain out or snow and ice,
Yeah, snow and ice.
it's not pleasant to go to work and
No,
stay
it's not.
in wet clothes all day.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
But-
pretty far.
There is a temporary solution that you
Yeah.
can to address your problem while you're trying to figure out what to do about it.
well, the lowest hanging fruit in this scenario is if we had another 50 feet in the back.
yeah,
You
because
know,
that would solve all of the staffing.
Right,
Yeah, right.
so we're,
So you can.
we're just gonna ask the question and have them take a peek.
So allow me to bring it back up a level though, back to where we were, the numbers that have been,
Going into the person's,
right?
that's the side with the person's yard? That we're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Because when
No.
Emily Webster lived there was talk at that time about widening that out. And nothing ever came to fruition because there was gonna have to be surveys and everything, because there was question on that boundary at that
Okay.
time.
Yeah, I've asked Scott to
Good.
give us a quote to actually show us the boundary.
yeah, good.
And the barbecue
Now,
doesn't have much for parking either.
At a
because
higher
of the
level,
Lions Club and the American Legion has no parking either.
Yeah.
Or the apartment building.
this particular account for the last 5 or 6 years has carried only those 2 numbers. The 300K for a highway garage, which I want to say a little more about in a minute. and the 400K for something to address town hall issues. That was partly because this committee for those years was under the impression that that account had only been approved for new buildings, not for maintenance. In other words, not for painting, not for,
Well, painting technically should not be in that
I
fund.
hear
It
you.
should be
Anyway.
capital improvements.
for everybody's benefit. That's why those are the only two numbers that have been appearing in that account. Because we thought that was what the voters approved it for,
Right.
not for maintenance.
Right.
Now, the other thing is the town garage. We've never discussed it, Bob.
Mhm.
Briefly, it was presented to this committee 4 or 5 years ago by the previous highway superintendent.
Yeah.
Bob.
And T.A.
Bob first.
The previous.
So do we have now 3 months in a row? Do we have 3 months in a row? Oh my God. Is that a job requirement?
Yeah, well,
First
we
thing,
actually,
but-
we said to him, he's Bob, somebody said there was even a Bob before that. Bob
Anyway.
Sullivan.
Sullivan, yeah.
It was
So there's,
first-
so you're Bob the fourth.
Yeah.
Bob Ford.
And I remember.
Bob the fourth. Just a quick history on that. It was originally proposed by Bob II. Without any real, how do I say it, numbers behind it or quotes. But what he advertised was, the big problem was in the wintertime, that they couldn't load the trucks in the winter with sand and salt and leave them outdoors because
It tends to freeze.
precipitation.
It will freeze
it
in your
would
bed.
freeze Solid,
I
and
can
then
see that being a
that
problem.
truck was
Yeah.
useless the next day.
Yeah.
He really needed more space to get trucks under cover.
I can see that, yeah.
So this committee said, okay, fine. First, we put in a number, which we thought was a good sized number 4 years ago, 300,000. Couple of years later, we got more serious about it. And with, your predecessors,
Dan.
Dan, with Dan's help, we got some relatively reasonable estimates, not hard quotes, but reasonable estimates from local contractors for things like concrete and the aluminum shed and wiring and plumbing, and it was gonna be a bare bones addition that would at least get the trucks undercover.
Undercover,
Not necessarily in a completely heated environment,
right?
but warm enough to keep things from freezing.
Sure.
And that was the idea, it was kind of a bare bones 300K addition.
Mhm.
So that's why that's been in the plan right along. I'd only ask you two guys to talk more about that.
I was gonna say, I have
And
some
maybe
input
with,
that I'd
yeah,
like
some
to.
input from,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
You guys should
this,
think about-
Nothing about.
we're at the
whether
beginning of the
that's
planning
why- that's what I
of
thought.
all the stuff.
Because
idea-
Chet and I have talked some about
There
that
you go.
already.
The idea was to get trucks undercover in the winter, so they could be loaded with sand and salt the day before a snowstorm.
It's
Not
also,
freeze solid.
and it also goes to when we were just talking about maintenance, the guys need a place to like rinse their trucks off.
That's all in Washington, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't do that,
intent
you-
was-
That's
you
just
what
make
the problem
it-
we've run into with the
Right.
equipment.
And again, you'd have to warm it enough
Mhm.
so that wash water wouldn't freeze.
Well,
You know?
One of the things that people forget,
Right, right.
one of the things that people forget about is your plow trucks. Everything on that thing runs by hydraulics. You have to keep them in an environment to
Warm
keep
enough
that
to
oil warm
Keep that
enough,
oil warm.
or you're stressing those pumps, the
Agreed.
drive shafts to them.
Understood. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't think
So
there's
for all
any
those
doubt that
reasons,
this
it might
committee
make a
would
lot of
be
good
behind-
sense.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be glad to
Yeah,
share.
and these are things we need to look at and we can, we'll start doing.
I'll be glad to share with you the basis of the estimate from 2 years ago.
Sure.
And
That
Of
would be
course,
helpful.
there's been inflation, but it'll give you something to go on. It actually identified the square footage, so many feet by so many feet and so on.
From what I understand too, is previously, and plus, coming from where I come from, it was a different setup, but. In the winter, it's possible to get the majority of the trucks in it, but you also have a mechanic working.
But then you can't move. The mechanic
Right.
can't do
Recording
it.
in progress.
And something's gotta be.
That's what we
outside.
Exactly. Okay,
All right,
all right, good. So with that, we go to the agenda real quick.
we only got 8 minutes to give up the.
Yeah, we got 8 minutes. Future meetings, Chet will not be here 2 weeks from now. He's on vacation that week.
My daughter's getting.
So I would suggest we change the meeting schedule.
Oh, okay, good.
I would suggest we change the meeting schedule. We either meet the week before, which is a week from now, to update all this,
It would be
or
the
else the week after.
The week after would be.
And that would mean the September 25th meeting would move to, anybody got a calendar handy real quick? September, that would be my suggestion. I'm looking for input in a minute, but I propose that we make
September 32nd.
September 25th.
So it'll be October 2nd.
It comes October 2nd. That's one option. What does anybody think?
that would be my preference.
All right, so we gotta move September 25th to October 2nd. And please, before you go on that vacation, please.
I'll
sit
give
out
you
whatever
whatever I
you
have, yeah.
Yeah. Then we'd be meeting on October 9th. I have no idea right now. We might, I would ask you all to start thinking about once a week, starting October 2nd. Because, if we meet on October 9th and we're not wrapped up, we're gonna need another meeting. So I'm gonna propose that we say, starting October 2nd, we'll meet Wednesdays once a week for 4 weeks. To finish this up.
2, 9, and.
It'll be 2, 9, 23. Oh, 2, 9, 16,
16.
23, and that would do it. That's what I'm gonna propose. What do you guys think?
And if you get done. you-
Well, if we get done,
We
we
get
just-
done, we'll cancel a meeting. It's easier, by the way, I wanna say this, easier to cancel a meeting with the public invited than to call one at the last minute, because you haven't got time to notify the public.
Right.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we plan October 2nd? Once a week, 2, 9, 16, 23. I'll get the calendar updated and the meeting room reservations and all the logistics. Monica will help me with that, right, Monica?
And who do you expect to show up for those meetings, right?
How do you mean? Oh, yes, which departments? Yes.
Well,
Yes.
basically, Bob and actually, Garen, we'll have him come for his first, he won't have a lot of background
Now,
to
who's
come.
this?
He's our new mechanic.
New mechanic. Got it,
He'll
got it.
he would be coming to the October
So
2nd one,
the
because that was the
equipment
follow-up, if there's
Yeah,
any equipment
sure.
follow-up.
Sure.
And then the other part we're gonna be talking about is bridges.
Yeah.
That one should be relatively straightforward.
That-
And then
Oh, you're right, Sal.
the one after that,
We'll tag each.
the one after that, hopefully, we'll be doing cleanup,
Clean up and summarizing it, yeah.
right?
You gotta get that first sheet, the one you said
Yeah,
is
I know.
looking at, that's gotta get.
Yeah, I
there.
know.
So we'll be able to look at the overall.
Yep, we
Without
wanna look
that,
at what we're
We
printing,
don't know where we are.
exactly.
Right, right. Okay, and let's see. And that's it. Is there any other business? If not.
Move to adjourn.
Scott. Who's the second?
Supper time. I got image to keep up.
Mark Houston second.
Okay,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're good.
thank you.